Hello and welcome. Good morning. How are you doing today? Class 1090. Wow. Class 1090. When we finish this class, then we'll have 110 classes left because we need to go to class 1200. That's my agreement with Televisión Española. 1200 programs. Whew. Well, originally, we started with the idea of only 190. ¿Te acuerdas? 190. Only 190. And because it was successful, we renewed the contract to 400. And then we renewed the contract to 600. And then we renewed the contract to 800. And finally to 1,000. But then, they said, let's continue. Why not? And I said, okay, but only 200 more. When I finish 1,200, I am going to retire. Yes, I'm going to go out to pasture. Voy a salir al prado a pastar. Eso dicen, to go out to pasture. Pasture. To go out to pasture. All right, I'm going to retire and take it easy. Yeah, to enjoy the autumn of my life. Disfrutar el otoño de mi vida. Why not? Me lo merezco, ¿a que sí? No me merezco. I don't deserve it. No. She doesn't want me to retire. Yeah, she thinks maybe her job is precarious. Yeah, ¿y yo qué hago? Me despiden. Don't worry. She's an artist. She's the best photographer in Spain. La mejor fotógrafa para niños y familias que hay en España. Artista al 100%. Yes, so she'll always, siempre caerás de pie. You'll always land feet first. Se dice así, to land es aterrizar, but feet first, pies primero, not head first. All right, de cabeza no. You'll always land feet first, don't worry. Besides, in about 13 or 14 years, her son is going to make a lot of money. Because her son is going to be a first division football player. Va a jugar en primera división de fútbol. Make some money. And so, él te cuidará la jubilación y todo. Don't worry. He's going to, her son's un balón de oro en ciernes aquí. ¿A que sí? Es un fenómeno en la cancha. Like Leo Messi when he was 11 and 12 years old. All right. Okay. Pierre Monet. We're beginning a new story. Pierre Monet. All right. Pierre Monet is 45 years old. He doesn't look like a very interesting person, no? But he looks boring. He's a translator, an interpreter. Yeah. Pierre Monet, escrito Monet. But we say Monet. Like the painter, Monet. Pierre Monet, Pedro Monet. Pierre Monet is 45 years old and lives in the suburbs of Paris. Suburbs. The word suburbios in Spanish traditionally era los arrabales, las zonas de gente más humilde. Vivir en los suburbios era vivir en las afueras de las chabolas, ¿no? Era así un poco. It comes from Latin. It comes from Rome. La Subuda. Subuda was the area of Rome, Antiguo, la ciudad de Roma, where the slaves lived, los esclavos y la gente de pocos medios in the Subuda. All right, they were not patricians, the plebeians, all right? That's the Subuda, and that word suburbio. But in English, suburbs is the good area. son las afueras donde vive la gente en casas muy, muy bonitas. That's the suburbs. So in English, at least in American English and Canadian English, the suburbs son las afueras como Pozuelo. Or, I don't know, for example, in Barcelona, you would say Pedralbes, in that area. Oof, it's an area which, better, the suburbs. And Pierre Monet lives in the suburbs of Paris. He's 45 years old and lives in the suburbs of Paris. He's married and has 3 children. Fijaos cómo pronuncio. Hace 2-3 años que no lo menciono. No children. Children. Okay, he has 3 children. He is married and has 3 children. All of his children live at home, except Gerard, who lives in a student hall of residence not far from the Sorbonne. So, his older son, Gerard, lives in a student residence near the Sorbonne, La Sorbonne, so the most famous university in France, the Sorbonne. So he lives in a student residence, Gerard. The other 2 sons live at home. Pierre, the son is studying architecture. Gerard is studying architectura. Los británicos dirían architecture. So hay de diferencia brutal. Architecture. Yes, the elder son is studying architecture. The oldest son is studying architecture. All right. So, Pierre's a civil servant. A civil servant es un sirviente civil. ¿Eso qué es? Funcionario. Decimos sirviente civil. Okay. He's a civil servant. Yes. He works in the ministry. He works in the translation and interpretation department of the foreign ministry. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The foreign ministry. La forma corta. El Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores, okay. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Asuntos Foráneos, okay. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Foreign Ministry. Okay, the Foreign Ministry. In the United States, we don't say Foreign Ministry, and we don't say the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We say the State Department. Or the Department of State. Those valen. Departamento de Estado. All right. The Department of State or the State Department. And the Secretary of State, el Ministro de Asuntos Exteriores norteamericano, is called the Secretario de Estado. Secretary of State. We use the word Secretary. Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of whatever. And the only exception is Attorney General, el Fiscal General. Attorney General is como si fuera Ministro de Justicia. The Attorney, pero no. The Attorney General es más bien el Ministro del Interior. Yes, more than the Justice Department. There isn't a Justice Department in the United States. Or a Ministry of Justice. Judicial system is a separate branch. To separate, you see, there are 3 branches. Aquí también se supone, pero hay mucha solapamiento. You have the Ejecutivo, Legislativo, y Judicial. All right. These are 3 different branches of government. In the United States, they're completely separate. There's no overlapping between the executive, legislative, and judicial. The legislative branch is to pass legislation, to propose, debate, and pass legislation. Proponer, debatir y aprobar. Legislación. To propose, debate, and pass. Pasar, aprobar. Approve, pero sí to pass. Pass legislation. The executive branch, the job is to execute legislation to the executive branch, la rama ejecutiva del gobierno. And the judicial is to interpret the legislation, to see if it's correct from the constitutional point of view or from the legal point of view. All right, that's the judicial branch. It works quite well. And the executive branch is totally different. In Spain, no. Spain is a parliamentary system. And so Pedro Sanchez is, as I'm speaking to you now in 2024, Pedro Sanchez is the president of the government. He's the prime minister of Spain. But he's also a member of parliament. So here the executive branch and the ministros, they are members of parliament and they vote in the parliament. So there's an overlapping between the executive branch and the legislative branch in Spain and in Great Britain and in, I think, in every country in Europe. I think every country in Europe has a parliamentary system. I'm not sure if, Moldova or Bosnia, I'm not sure. But in the United States, no. And the only member of the executive branch who also attends the sessions in the legislative branch is the Vice President of the United States. You see, in the Senate, el Senado, in the Senate, there are 100 members, 2 from each state. There are 100 members. But the Speaker of the Senate, the person that, el que dirige las sesiones, is the Vice President of the United States. So the Vice President, and the Vice President has a vote. So in the Senate, if there's perfect quorum, there are 100 senators and the Vice President. So there are 101 votes. During the current administration, during the Biden administration, I think it was, in many cases, 50-50, and Kamala Harris had the deciding vote. So in this particular case, the executive branch had some influence on the legislative. All right. But I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about Pierre Monet. He works as a translator and interpreter in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or the Foreign Ministry, in the center of Paris. Every day he goes by train and subway from his house outside of Paris to the ministry. Every day. Train and subway. Primero un tren y luego pasa al metro. Okay. Yeah, it takes him almost an hour. It takes him almost an hour. Yeah. It takes me 35 minutes to come here, normally. But I use public transport, like Pierre. So it takes me less time than Pierre. It doesn't take me as long. It takes me 35 minutes, but it takes Pierre almost an hour to go to work in the morning, and about 45 minutes to come back in the afternoon. Why does it take him less time to come back in the afternoon? I don't remember. All right. He leaves home at 7. A las 7 de la mañana sale de casa. He leaves home at 7 and gets to the ministry just before 8 o'clock. When he gets to the office, he always has a lot of letters and documents waiting for him. When he gets to the office, he has a private office, but when he gets to the office, he has a lot of papers and documents waiting for him. Yes. He is responsible for a very special area of his department. He decodes and translates all secret documents that come in English and Spanish. Es el que traduce las cosas clasificadas. Tienes que descodificarlo, descifrar. He has a decoding. He decodes. The documents are coded. He has to decipher. So he decodes them and translates them in English and in Spanish. So Pierre is trilingual. He speaks French, of course. French is his mother tongue. Well, not necessarily. Just a second. I don't remember the details. All right, just a second. He translates all secret documents, documentos secretos, that come in English and Spanish. He speaks and writes both languages fluently. His wife is Spanish. Okay. And his mother is English. So his mother tongue, well, this is interesting. Lengua materna se dice. Okay. We say mother tongue, como la lengua anatómica, tongue. We don't say mother language. We say native language, yes, lengua, idioma nativo, native language, but we say mother tongue. Now, Pierre was born in France, and he grew up in France. His father was French, and his mother was English. The mother spoke to him in English always, at home. But the father spoke to him in French. And of course in the street, in the neighborhood, and at school in French. What would you consider Pierre's mother tongue? Probably he speaks French better than English because he grew up in France. But of course he speaks English perfectly because his mother always spoke to him in English. So his mother tongue technically is English. But for me, in reality, his mother tongue is French. All right. Even though his mother spoke to him in English. But in any case, he speaks both languages perfectly, French and English. And his wife is Spanish. And they speak Spanish together. Because when they met, I think they met I don't remember, I think they met in San Sebastián in Spain. He was visiting. And he met his future wife. And she didn't know a word of French. Yeah. Je sais. Je suis espagnol. And so she knew, but now she speaks French well, of course, because they live in Paris. But they established their relationship in Spanish. And in sentimental relationships, when you establish the beginning of a relationship in a certain language, normally that relationship continues for the rest of your life in that language, and you don't switch. It's unnatural to change to a different language in a sentimental relationship. All right, because the power of the early moments of the relationship are based in a certain language. Yes, the intimacy is founded on a specific language. Yeah. Yes, mon petit chou. Se dice en los franceses, mi pequeño repollo, mi repollito. Yo me llamo corazón de melón, pero no repollo. She's never called me a repollo. Cabbage, cabaje, escrito con doble B, cabaje, como suena con C. Cabbage is repollo. Col, repollo, cabbage. My little cabbage. That's what the French say. Mon petit chou, mon petit chou, mon chou, my cabbage. All right. So, I don't know if Pierre's wife still calls him mon petit chou. I'm not sure. But in any case, so he decodes and translates secret documents. He speaks and writes both languages. He speaks and writes both languages fluently. His wife is Spanish, and his mother is English. Pierre is an expert translator. He doesn't usually translate documents in writing. No, in writing. He verbally dictates the translation directly into a microphone. That's interesting. So he goes, Pierre Monet tiene 45 años, is 45 years old, y vive en las afueras de París. Está casado y tiene 3 hijos. O sea, and onto a recording, and then the secretary transcribes it with headphones. Now, I wrote these stories in the 1990s. Now with artificial intelligence, maybe the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't need Pierre Monet. I mean, of all of the jobs affected by AI or artificial intelligence, the job of a translator is one of the most affected. I mean, the future of translation services, offering translations. Artificial intelligence still makes mistakes. ChatGPT, Perplexity, they still make mistakes. You see. ChatGPT, yo puse lo de haré lo que pude y falló varias veces. Te voy a explicar, es haré sin H. Y lo escribí, haré lo que pude. Haré sin H, haré lo que pude. I plowed. He arado el campo todo lo que he podido. Y ayer haré lo que pude. And it was, in ChatGPT, I was able to fool, engañar, I was able to fool ChatGPT. But I'm thinking 1 year or 2 years, I won't be able to fool ChatGPT. Yes. I remember I put apenas llego cuando llego apenas. It got it right, you see. So it's difficult to fool it. It's difficult to fool ChatGPT. And so for translators, for people like Pierre Monet, the future is not very clear. All right, it's not very clear. All right. He's an expert translator. He doesn't usually translate in writing. He usually dictates, dictate escrito. He usually dictates the translation directly into, directly into a microphone, como entrando en el micrófono, directly into a microphone. Later, a secretary transcribes the recording onto paper. Into the microphone, onto paper. All right. This way, Pierre translates very quickly and finishes his work early. He usually goes home around 4 p.m. Okay. So he works from 8 to 4. Okay. Yeah, that's 8 hours. No, yeah, from 8 to 4. 8 hours. He usually goes home around 4 p.m. He doesn't have lunch in the dining hall of the ministry. He usually doesn't have lunch. He doesn't have lunch in the dining hall. El comedor del ministerio. El hall de dining hall, is one of many words. The lunchroom, the cafeteria, the dining hall. He doesn't have lunch in the dining hall of the ministry. He takes a sandwich to work every day and eats it at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, yeah, 12 o'clock, my sandwich. So he eats his sandwich. That's his lunch, yeah. So he takes a sandwich to work, yes. At 12 o'clock sharp, a las 12 del mediodía en punto, okay. 12 o'clock sharp. He prefers to continue to work. He prefers to continue his work without interruptions in order to go home as early as possible. When he gets home, he starts his second job. Hace pluriempleo. He moonlights. Luz lunea. ¿Cómo? Luz lunea. ¿Eso qué es? Trabaja la luz de la luna, ¿no? He moonlights. Moonlight, it's interesting. Moonlight is la luz de la luna. Moonlight. Serenata a la luz de la luna, moonlight serenade. Yes. But to moonlight means trabajar en pluriempleo, because normally it's at night. And it comes from the Appalachian Mountains. Moonshine. To make moonshine. Moonshine is luz, es cuando brilla o luce la luna. Moonshine. The sun is shining, the moon is shining. Now moonshine is whiskey. It's whiskey ilegal. Que en los Apalaches hacían de noche para que el sheriff no los encontrara. Y usaban la luz de la luna para hacer el whisky. El whisky se llama moonshine. And to moonlight es trabajar la luz de la luna. So to moonlight lo usamos como verbo, que es hacer pluriempleo. To moonlight. Y se dice mucho. I work as a teacher during the day, and I moonlight as a taxi driver, or Uber driver, Cabify. I moonlight in the evenings. All right. Pierre Monet, and that's it for today, but I'll come back and finish Pierre next time. Take care.